Hey everyone, and welcome. I'm so excited to have you here today because we're talking about raising healthy and emotionally healthy neurodivergent kids. Because, man, there's so many families out there that I talk to all the time that are like, my kid has ADHD, my kid is a little bit, on the spectrum, my kid is a little bit this, and just having trouble managing the day, or that perhaps the child is needing more attention, and that is taking you feel like you can't give enough attention to your other kids, and that develops it really develops a lot of stress in mamas, and the whole family is really out of its dynamic and out of its groove. And so Emily Hamblin is with us today. She is a true expert. She's absolutely amazing in working with families to help healthy emotional how do I say it? What emotionally healthy neurodivergence. I always want to say it backwards for some reason. But anyways, I am super excited. She has a summit coming up this month in October, and I really want you guys to, if you have a child or you have neurodivergence, you definitely want to be at this conference because it is so amazing. We're going to talk about this later. I'm speaking at it. I'm super honored to be able to speak at this. And Emily is so amazing. I have known her for just a short time, just this year. But in that time, I have seen her grow. I have seen her commit to helping families and kids so much more and show up so much better in ways that I am so excited about for the families that she's helping. And she's absolutely on fire right now. She is really making a true difference, and the kids love her too, which is awesome. I love her too. And so, Emily, can you share a little bit about yourself with us today and just about why you love helping families with emotionally healthy neurodivergent structures?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Cami, for such a warm welcome. Super excited to be here with you. Um, like you said, my name is Emily Hamblin. I'm a certified teacher. I'm also a mom of four. And I have to tell you that I know this is something that you've heard a lot and you've said yourself, Cami. When I became a mom, when I found out I was going to be a mom, I was ecstatic. Honestly, I'd always loved children and I was really, really excited to have my own child. I'd also been teaching for years. I had quite a bit of classroom experience, really was just crushing it in the classroom, doing great, seeing a lot of really good growth from the students, good relationships with them. And when it came time to be a mom, I still had that good relationship with my child in terms of like, I love them fiercely, dearly, deeply, loved being a mom. But there's one piece that I struggled with that I wasn't expecting. And that was the emotional regulation piece. My child, I had no idea for a long time that I had several children that were neurodivergent. Honestly, I never even heard that word with my multiple teaching degrees that I got. I never heard that word. And I had heard the word autism and ADHD, of course, but I didn't actually understand what that truly meant. And I even was blindsided to my own children being neurodivergent until a bit later than you would expect for a teacher to have her children evaluated and diagnosed. And it was during their evaluation process I realized, oh my goodness, like I'm neurodivergent also. And I went and I got my own ADHD diagnosis. It was like off the charts, combined type, the inattentive and the hyperactive. I'm like, this explains my life all of a sudden, right? And so in any case, it took a lot for me to understand that emotional regulation piece in context of the family. I had it down in the classroom, but it didn't translate to the family quite like I'd hoped. How to regulate my own emotions and how to help my children with their emotional regulation in ways that were healthy, in ways that worked with their neurodivergence instead of treating them like they had a neurotypical brain, to understand that their brain is different and it requires a different approach. And there's nothing wrong with that. And as I dove into my own emotional growth, helping my kids with theirs, it completely changed our family dynamic. And so now, back in 2021, 2022, I decided to transition full time from teaching the classroom, which I adored, to more of teaching in this online space. And I love it. I love the families and the children that I work with. And we're seeing this ripple effect of change for good. And it's something I could talk about all day long. So I'm glad you have me here to talk about it.
Well, unfortunately, we don't have all day long, but you do have your summit coming up later this month, which is going to be so many
Yes.
greatness. So I want you to just talk a little bit about, because I feel like many families feel stuck and they're not sure why. So they feel stuck, and a lot of parents are just like, I don't know. We either know for sure this child has neurodivergence, so we're not sure, but we're kind of getting the gist that that's what's going on, and we don't know what to do and we feel stuck. Can you tell me about some of the things that you see in families when they come to you? What are they feeling? What's going on?
Yes, this is such a good question. There's a lot going on if you're suspecting your child's neurodivergent or you know that they're neurodivergent. There's like a lot going on, right? First of all, we have this like piece, at least here in the United States, I think, and in most countries. There's a lot of hoop jumping to actually have your child evaluated and to know for sure, like, are they neurodivergent? Are they just kind of quirky, right? Or, what's going on? Are they highly sensitive? And that can be frustrating. Like, I won't lie, I'm going through that with one of my 4 children right now, and I'm surprised because it's less hoop jumping than with my other kids. I was really surprised at that initial appointment that they're only having me do 2 to 3 follow-ups instead of, like, 3 full day things like with my other children. But, that can be frustrating, so we need our own emotional regulation just to get through that. There's also this other piece with the world in which we live has a lot of misconceptions around what neurodivergence means, and a lot of it's really unhelpful, and some of it can even be damaging when we suspect our child is neurodivergent, when we suspect it for ourselves, right? I hear a lot of parents I see online where they say, "I'm terrified. I think my child might have autism, and I'm so scared to have them evaluated." And what that tells me is we're still carrying that old stigma that autistic means bad, or ADHD means bad, or neurodivergent, dyslexic, or
Right.
dysgraphia. There's a lot that we could go on and on with the list of what neurodivergence is. And it's going to start with us addressing our own mindset around it. And instead of seeing it as some sort of defect, instead of seeing it as a disease, instead of seeing it as something that's, if my child has that label, it will damage their life. Instead, we see it as my child is different. Maybe I don't yet have the words or the diagnosis to understand how they're different, but you know what? I'm totally okay with the fact that my child is different. They're going to learn differently. They're going to have a wonderful, happy, successful life, and I'm going to do what I can to help them get there. And it's going to be a different path than what I had planned. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay.
I love that, because I think that it causes the most of the stress comes from us feeling like, oh, there's something wrong with my child, or maybe I did something wrong, or there's all this mom guilt that's going to come up, right? And so we have to think about it in a different way, perspective shift, that it's just something that's, we all have to deal with different personality styles or whatever the case for our kids. And so we need to just learn the things that helps our child the best. And one of the things I think, when you mentioned going through the process of getting a diagnosis, I know that that process can be very stressful, and both for the kids and the parents. So, how do we help make that process more doable and less stressful?
This is good. Well, that first one is to address our own mindsets around it, right? And I will also say, personally, I don't require diagnoses to have children and parents join any of my programs and to work with me to get help with emotional regulation, because the process in some places, in some countries, like, it can take 2 to 3 years for some people. Like, a short term might be 5 to 6 months. You don't need to wait to start to get help, particularly with that emotional regulation piece, which is what's going to touch every area of your family's life as you learn emotional regulation, right? So, I mean, that's one, is you don't have to actually wait. Also, you as a parent, anything you can do to fill your own cup, to take care of yourself, to do what you need to keep your body budget. That's one thing I teach children, is that body budget aspect, to keep that nice and high. That's going to really help your child because you're going to have more to give. So that's another. And then, you know, some of it's just going to be putting your nose to the grind. And I don't even like to say that in general, but I know for one of my children, I went to, when I suspected he was neurodivergent, I didn't actually know that he had autism and ADHD and like multiple diagnoses. I just was guessing ADHD because that's what one of my other kids had and it's what I had. And so I went to the teacher and said, "Hey, I think my son has ADHD." Well, first I went to the doctor. Doctor gave me little forms. I had to fill out one, the teacher had to fill out one. So we went to the teacher, gave her the form and said, "I think my son has ADHD. I'm having him evaluated to see, can you fill out this form?" And I remember she said to me, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with your son." And I was like,
I know.
"I know there's nothing wrong with my
Yeah,
son. And I think he has ADHD." Like, it's like I
right.
couldn't get her to see that. And she filled out the evaluation. Like, she said, "Oh, no, he never squirms in his seat. He always waits his turn. He never blurts out." And I went and observed him in the classroom, and he was doing this the whole time. Like some ninja moves behind the desk. I was like, "Oh my goodness, okay." So doctor said, I can't diagnose him because of this teacher evaluation."
Oh
I
my
said, "Okay, I
gosh.
understand." I pulled him from that school. We did an in-home micro school the next year, much better fit for my child, right? And then we had a new evaluation. I just had a teacher from church because I needed 2 of them. And they were
Right.
like, "Oh, yeah, this is clear. He's off the charts ADHD." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, right?" So anyways, and then we had more evaluations beyond that where I realized, I think there's still more going on. And so it was a process, and
Yeah.
that's just part of it. And even still, it's like, yeah, the diagnosis helps, but this is part of being a parent is we're always learning more about our kids and we're learning more of how they work and how they're different and
Mhm.
how to meet them where they're at. That's just one piece of that puzzle.
So true, so true, and especially, as they get older, they reach different stages of development, there's so much more to uncover when they can process and they can explain what they're feeling, what they're going through, how they're thinking about things. It's so amazing. It really is something that it's such a gift to be able to see inside their brains and inside their souls. So I love it. And so when let's talk about emotional regulation right now. So talking about emotional regulation, just tell me blankly what it is. What does it mean to be emotionally regulated or not?
Oh, this is such a good question. So, technically, when we're talking about emotional regulation, that's not what we actually mean. That sounds confusing, but let me explain. Often, when we talk about emotional regulation, we think of our nervous system, and our nervous system goes through states of regulation and dysregulation. That's called being a human, right? It's supposed to. This is how it
So
works.
true.
Right, it's supposed to go through those states, and, when we speak about being emotionally regulated, it doesn't actually mean that you or your child never experience emotional dysregulation. What it means is that we're able to recognize it when it comes, we're able to stay in control of ourselves, and we're able to do what we need to find healthy ways to go back to a regulated state. And that's why we focus a lot in the summit that I'm hosting and in general on emotionally healthy neurodivergent families. I'm sure we've all seen the adult. For me personally, I once was the parent that finds really unhealthy ways to release their emotions. This might be, for me, it was a lot of yelling and screaming, which I always promised I wouldn't do. And suddenly I was doing it as a parent, right? So I had to find emotionally, first of all, I had to understand why I was so dysregulated in the first place, and then find emotionally healthy ways to manage those triggers and to go back to a regulated state. We've all seen the person on the highway that's just like a maniac driver and they're out of their mind, just like they're being so dangerous, they're being so aggressive, and we're like, "What's going on?" And it was probably just that they were frustrated and angry and didn't recognize it, and they didn't have a healthy way to go back to a regulated state. Like, this is where we see a lot. Recently in our town, we had someone with road rage, an adult, who pulled out a gun and tried to shoot someone for cutting them off. And thankfully, it was through their own windshield. So this is where they weren't thinking logically, right? And so the bullet like got caught in their own windshield,
Wow.
which I'm very grateful for. I'm very grateful
Yes.
for. But you just realize, oh my goodness, what if that person had learned emotional regulation? And I'm not saying that, those of us um, with children that struggle with emotional regulation, that they're going to end up like shooting someone on the highway for cutting them off. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is it's powerful, right? And it can make a huge difference as we come to understand, right? Especially children. They understand what's going on in their unique brain, what's going on in their nervous system, what are the signs that they're heading to dysregulation. And how can we manage that without exploding or shutting down?
Yeah, I see that a lot in families that are really struggling and out of balance. And so I see them having one neurodivergent child, it has a complete meltdown. And then it throws off the entire
Yeah.
family's day, like the entire day, because now we have to focus on, because they're not just throwing a fit, like, in their room or something.
Yeah.
It's everywhere, it's
Oh, wow.
everybody, and it engages all the other kids or the other kids feel like, "Gosh, again, like, what? We just need to, calm down, and I'm trying to get something done," and the moms, we all have to go outside
Mhm.
now, we all have to calm down, we all have and so it really throws off the whole day, and it helps for us to have tools to use to help us emotionally regulate ourselves and then help our kids as well. So in what ways do you think that it's best for us to know when to use those kinds of tools? And I know you have so many tools. You're very I one thing I love about Emily, she's all about the science too. She gets real nerdy in the brain and everything, which I totally dig on as well. And I love that. So what kinds of triggers should we look for in order to be able to use emotionally regulated tools or in order to know that we need them so our day doesn't and we're not trying to backtrack?
Yes, this is such a good question. The very first thing that I teach children in my brain body emotional education class is to understand that our brain has a lot of different parts, right? I have my lovely little brain assistant here with me. It has a lot of parts. We don't need to worry about all of them. For terms of simplifying and understanding, we can get that there's two main parts that deal with emotions. One is right here, our prefrontal cortex, right? We sometimes call it our upstairs brain right behind our forehead. The other actually deals with a lot of parts of the brain, but often we just call in the amygdala, which is right down here. Technically, there's two amygdalae, I believe they're called, but we don't need to worry about that, right? So it's our survival brain. It's right here, kind of if we could intersect behind our ears, it's right back there. And so we have our downstairs brain and our upstairs brain. Our upstairs brain is really logical. This is where we do a lot of our thinking. This is where we have risk management. This is where we think things through. That downstairs brain deals with survival, right? This is the part of your brain that wants you to stay alive. And you can tell which one's closer to your body, right? It's that downstairs brain.
Yeah.
And so that's the one that has more conversation with your body, more connection with your body. Sensory meltdowns are really common with neurodivergent kids. It's connected to our nervous system, right? And so as we help kids understand that they have those two parts of the brain, that when they end up having a meltdown, it's because that survival brain has sensed some sort of threat. It's probably not even like we could put it in quotes, real threat, but it
Mhm.
feels real in the moment. And it feels real to the brain. And so it sends off the fire alarm, right? And it tells the body to go into fight or flight to stay safe. That's basically what's happening. Now, of course, I teach this to children on a children's level, and we have all sorts of analogies and visuals, so it's not over their heads. But this is important to understand with our children that that's mostly what a meltdown is. There's a lot of triggers that go to it. It could be sensory, it could be cognitive, it could be something else going on. And as we come to understand that, we kind of start to notice that there's warning signs either within us or
Mm.
in our children that we're heading towards the meltdown, or the meltdowns can sometimes become a bit predictable. This is a common thing that tends to signal danger to my child's survival brain. You notice it has nothing to do with being logical, has nothing to do with thinking. That's in an entirely different part of your brain. It's down in that survival brain. And when that survival brain takes over, your brain wants to keep you alive more than it wants you to stay happy, right? That's its priority. So it's going to put all of the energy from that prefrontal cortex down into that survival brain. Your kid's not thinking logically during a meltdown. If we're trying to explain it out of them, talk to them, like they're not thinking logically. They're in their most basic survival brain, right? So we recognize as it starts to come, and I work with children to help them recognize in a way that's not shaming them. They're not being bad in a meltdown. I would say I've worked with many, many children around the world, and I've yet to meet one that is proud of their meltdowns.
Yeah.
Most parents say after their kid's done melting down, they say, "Oh, I'm so bad. Oh, I'm so horrible." They wanna hide. Like, I've seen little girls that I work with, like, put their hair in front of their face and say,
Oh,
"Oh my goodness, I need to disappear." Right? Like, they are completely ashamed. They're not wanting to melt down, and afterwards, when they're thinking logically, they're like, "What did I just do?" So I work hard to normalize it. Like, I tell them about my own meltdowns. I tell them about a time that I hit and scratched and pushed my sister just because she took the book out of my hands and what was going on. And we dive into dissecting that. So I'm not shaming them. And so I feel like this is what we can do in families. Like, just make it more normal to have big emotions. It's not a good or bad thing. It just is. And then we're going to learn healthy ways to recognize it and manage it.
I love that. So tell me one way that parents can help or help themselves. I feel like it's always coming from from us because we're the thermostats, right? Even though our kids have their own emotions and big emotions too, but it does come a lot of the what happens to it when that happens comes from us. And so like you said, us recognizing and making it normalize and then also just making it just something that is not wrong with them or something that they don't, shaming them for it or something like that. But how can what's one tool that moms, parents can use, because normally it is the moms, but what tool can we use to help pull us back down when that tantrum is happening?
Yes, this is such a good question. And I love that you point this out because, especially like all the time, we're communicating to our children with our nervous system, our emotional state. This is what science backs up, right?
Yeah.
The child's brain registers our emotional tone before it ever registers the linguistic aspect. So, in other words, they're noticing our emotion before they ever hear our words. And this makes sense because if I were to say to you, "Oh, Cami, it's so nice to see you today."
Right.
You didn't even register what I said, but you heard my attitude, right?
Exactly.
But when I say, "Oh, Cami, it is so nice to see you today." First, you heard my emotion, and then you're like, "Oh, she's saying it's nice to see me."
Right.
Right? And so our children, it's the same. And when they're in that, like, really they're either revving up to the meltdown or maybe there's a trigger coming their way, they're subconsciously looking to their caregiver to say, "Hey, is this safe or unsafe?" And they're not
Mm.
listening to your words. They're looking subconsciously, it's called neuroception. They're looking at your nervous system. Is your nervous system signaling danger with anger, frustration, stress, fear, anxiety? Or is your nervous system signaling safety? Maybe calm, confidence, compassion, clarity, understanding. You notice I'm not saying happy and joyful because I'm not happy and joyful when my
Right.
kids are melting down. I'm trying to be really, really realistic. And as we're able to work on our own emotional state surrounding the meltdowns, then that's what's going to be the most powerful. But you asked for one. I didn't give one tool. I had to give some
That is
background.
one, I feel like. If
Um,
you want to share another one, go ahead.
no, well, I mean, in terms of how to do that,
Yes.
sometimes
Okay.
parents are
Got
like,
it.
how do I do that? If it's a predictable meltdown, I want you to imagine that your child's whatever it is that they're melting down about. Maybe it's anytime you ask them to write an essay. That was my child when we homeschooled. It was if it was a writing thing, I didn't know that writing had so many aspects that were hard with ADHD. I just knew if I said, "Hey, how about we write a response? How about we write about what we're learning in this book?" It was like instant meltdown for us. That's actually really good news. I know. Stay with me. Like, why is that good news, Emily? It's actually really good news because it means it's predictable, and so we can take it out of the moment. I can imagine I've just said to my son, "Hey, how about we write down what we're learning about in that book?" And I imagine my son having a meltdown, and I get myself like I try to have myself feel what my body's feeling, and then I can start to work on my own triggers there. Why am I so triggered? What's going on under the surface? How am I actually feeling? I can kind of slow it down. I can feel it in my body. Emotions are not felt in your brain, they're felt in your body.
Mhm.
Different emotions in different areas, different sensations. So we can kind of slow it down and then work on our own triggers around it. And that is part of a game changer right there.
I love that. And I love how you also said that just making that note and being very present in that moment, allows us to stop and say, "Hmm, what's happening here?" And also works for our kids too, I'm sure. And so that's something, a good example you can show for your kids. And then you are that thermostat, and especially for your other kids, I feel like if you have kids that are not neurodivergent, and then they're that family situation, the kids, one's having a meltdown, the rest of them, you setting that example, I imagine would have tremendous effect
Yes.
on
And I want to
everyone
say
else.
something really fast.
Yes.
Having guilt around anything as a parent is actually going to increase your likelihood of being dysregulated. Right? We have a body budget where we can think of things that are positively impacting our body, which is connected to our brain, and things that are kind of negatively impacting it. Guilt is a negative impact. It's going to withdraw, so it makes it more likely you'll be dysregulated. So if we're feeling like, oh my goodness, like I show up so dysregulated during my child's meltdowns, like I'm furious and it's terrified all at the same time. So now it's my fault that they're melting down. No, actually, it's not your fault. And if you sit here thinking it's my fault, I'm the one to blame, I'm the problem, if we're thinking that as parents,
Mhm.
we can't make progress because you are going to be in that fight or flight state yourself. So we have to understand, you know what? I've done my best. And now I'm learning more and I'm growing and we're supposed to. I know we call ourselves grown-ups, but I actually don't love that word because we're going to be
I
growing
don't
our
either.
entire life. Like maybe in my body, I'm not going to get any taller, but we're going to be growing our entire life. I'm 40 and I feel like I am growing more this year than I ever have in my
You
entire life.
have.
Like it's not that what we did was bad. It's that we just actually didn't have the skills and knowledge that we have now. And so whenever we're tempted to fall into that, "Oh, I'm the one to blame. This is all
Mhm.
my fault." We need to switch it to, "Actually, I have more power than I know. Right now, I have this incredible ability to make a change in my family, to make a change for my child. And I don't exactly know how I'm gonna get there, but I know I will. And I'm committed to this. I'm not giving up. And I'm gonna keep trying."
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that because I feel that there have been so many times where I'm like, "Oh, that was my fault." And giving yourself grace, what I've learned over the years and having an almost 17-year-old now is giving yourself grace for what you knew at the time, and you did the best with what you knew. Is hard, but it's real. And as you grow more, and you can always grow, and I'm going to get better. Tomorrow's another day. The next
Mhm.
2 minutes is another 2 minutes. I get to make another choice. And that's really something I feel like has made a huge difference in my ability to connect with my son and say, like, "Hey man, I'm so sorry. That was not normal. That was not how I want to show
Yeah.
up." But
And
yeah,
yeah, approaching ourselves with the same curiosity and compassion with which we approach our children. Like, okay, so I knew not to yell there up here,
right.
right? But I still yelled down here. Hmm, there's a disconnect. Why did I find that to be an unsafe moment? What about it triggered to my survival brain that something was unsafe? And then it becomes more of like we become our own detective instead of our own judge. We're not like our judge that we're passing condemnation on ourselves. It's like we're this detective, the scientist trying to understand what happened. And it just takes a lot of that like guilt out of it. Because if we're talking about morals, I believe every single parent listening to this, watching this right now, is probably a really good parent.
Absolutely.
Like, they have a really good heart. So it's not an immoral thing if they end up yelling. They didn't consciously go, "I think I'm gonna scream at my kid tomorrow while they're
Right.
mid-meltdown." I would love to do that. That would just make my day. It's more like, "Oh, I'd like to stay calm." I end up screaming, "Oh, there's a disconnect there. Okay, I got some more work to do."
Absolutely. That's such a great distinction, and I love that investigative curiosity mode. That's definitely something that I am all about, especially with personal growth and trying to get better. We always have to be in that mode. And so I think that's a really really good distinction, a really good metaphor for what we can do to get better. And I know that one way we can do to get better is to attend your summit coming up very very soon in the next couple of weeks here. So please, can you share with us about that summit and why parents should come to this? I feel like it's already a done deal based on our conversation right now, but what else are they going to get?
Yes. So I am like beyond excited. I am beyond excited for this summit. It's a collection of interviews. It's kind of similar to this one Cami and I did, but it's all in one spot of experts from around the world, like Cami. And we're talking about a variety of topics. Whether your child is a toddler, we have someone talking about raising emotionally healthy toddlers. We have someone talking about raising emotionally healthy neurodivergent teens, right? And so we have someone talking about the impact that clutter might have on your life if you're
So
a
good.
neurodivergent family. It's like tons of topics all in one space. It's completely free. We have 25 experts, interviews, and there's going to be this whole experience to it. Like we have the interviews, you get to watch them each day, and I'm going to have a free pop-up Facebook group. We have like bingo games. It's just really 5 days to amp up your own commitment, your own understanding, and your own like drive to keep moving forward and raising an emotionally healthy family. So going to be fantastic. I know, Cami, you probably have a link that you want to share, but they can
Absolutely.
find it at emotionallyhealthyfamilies.com. They can come follow me at Instagram at Emily Hamblin Coaching, and I'll be posting about that a lot in the next good while.
Yeah, definitely look out for the link I'm going to share in this specific video. It's going to be where the show notes and the descriptions, wherever you're listening or watching this, you're going to be able to find that link. And Emily, tell us the dates.
So it's going to be live October 27th through 31st, but people can join at any time. I'd say join right now as soon as you hear this. And if you're listening to this later, come check it out and see what you can see, right? Because even if you get like a couple of speakers, even if you want to just come and listen to Cami's one interview, it's so good, right? Talking about lifelong learning and a love of learning in the emotionally healthy neurodivergent families context, right? Um, then come and join. You don't need to worry that I don't have time to listen to 25 speakers and to do it all. So don't do it all. Come and do like some of it. Right? Something's always better than nothing. So they're going to want to come. Most of our speakers are giving away a free gift also. So they'll be able to get lots of free gifts that tie into raising emotionally healthy neurodivergent families. So it's going to be amazing. And the energy is going to be super high. It's going to be one of those things that you're going to leave like, I can do this and I'm ready to keep on going.
I feel exactly that's what's going to happen because I know the kind of people that you attract and the kind of people that you work with, and I'm very sure that whatever you attend, whatever you get out of it, whether it be my talk or anybody else's, is going to be so powerful for you. So just get your free tickets and then make sure that just put it on your calendar and make sure you just get in what you can. If you can get it all in, fabulous. And I know there's a VIP option as well, and that can be really powerful for you if you want to make sure to get all of it. So I am excited. It's going to be so amazing. And I know Emily puts on such an amazing event. I've been in a lot of summits, a lot of conferences. Not all of them are very well run. And I know that Emily has all her ducks in a row, and she definitely has an experience for you, not just something where you're just watching and whatever. There's all kinds of things she's doing. So I'm excited for you guys to do this and attend the event. Be sure to get your ticket in the link below somewhere, wherever you're watching or listening to this. And thank you, Emily, so much for joining us today. I am so excited for this event for you. And I'm also more excited about what you're doing for families right now. You've made such a huge leap in how many families you're helping, and I'm just so proud of you for that. I'm really really I'm amazed at how much you have grown in the last several months, and you're just on fire, lady. I'm so excited for you.
Hey, thank you, Cami. Thank you for having me, for the work you're doing, and for your good heart.
Absolutely. All right. I will see you next week. Bye bye.